Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Tui. I'm the Director of Education here at Ozobot, and we're really thrilled to have you all today in the audience. We have some really exciting new updates for back to school that have really made things easier and simpler for you to use Ozobot in your classroom that we're excited to share with you today. I'll go ahead and take care of the housekeeping items, and then we'll dive right in. For today's agenda, we are going to, let me pull up the slides here. We just wanted to let everyone know that we are recording this session. And if you'd like to come back and view it, you'll be emailed, you will be emailed a recording if you opt in. We're going to go over our Ozobot classroom updates and all the new features and the ways that we've made things simpler for you to use with your students. We're going to cover the pacing guides that we've come out with and our new introduction to Ozobot color codes and Ozoblockly lesson series. And then we also would love to know how things are going in your classroom. Many of you we've met and trained in the past year with Ozobot. And so we have a feedback survey to know how we can improve and what other materials you might need in order to have the best support possible. And then we'll end with Q&A today. Again, my name is Melissa Tui. I'm the Director of Education here at Ozobot. Excited to be here with you all today. I'm a former teacher. I've taught kindergarten and first grade, coached teachers in implementing computer science, founded a CS program in South LA, and I'm researching computer science for my dissertation at UCLA. So all things computer science in my life. I'll pass it to Jen to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jen Maher. I work in the customer experience as well as being a curriculum developer for Ozobot. I've been with Ozobot about 1.5 years and former math and science teacher, middle school ages, and also former dance teacher. So I get all those STEAM letters in there. I have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, and I'm excited to share with you tonight the new updates for classroom. I think you will absolutely love them. It will make your life easier. And I will pass it to Natalie.
Hey everybody, thanks for taking some time out to spend with us. I'm happy to be part of the Ozobot education team and work primarily on developing the curriculum that hopefully you've gotten to try out a little bit with your students. Looking forward to hearing some input and feedback today, and really excited as well to share with you the changes that we've made to hopefully help support you on a smooth school year.
And thanks to everyone who's participated in the chat for introducing yourselves. It's helpful for us to get an idea of what everyone teaches and where y'all are from. So I'm going to pass it to Jen to cover the Ozobot classroom updates. Jen, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Would you like me to share? Yes, it's been that kind of a day. Would you like me to share my screen? All right. If you can see my screen, please give me a thumbs up here or something. Let me get to our slide where we're supposed to be. Thanks. Okay, so we have a revised Ozobot classroom for you today. And if you have already created your free Ozobot classroom account, you do not need to create a new one. You'll just need to sign in with the credentials that you had already created for Google Classroom. When you first sign on to Google Classroom, to Ozobot Classroom, not Google Classroom, Ozobot Classroom. It's been kind of a long day here. When you first sign on to Ozobot Classroom, you'll notice a new dashboard. The fantastic thing about this dashboard is everything that you need is right there on the dashboard. On the left-hand side, you'll have lessons, devices, and then the help down at the bottom. And over on the right-hand side, we've got cards for the lesson library, the pacing guides, the webinar schedule, and you can click that to get to our website to find the webinar schedule, as well as past webinar recordings are there. You can also go to the lesson creator if you want to submit a lesson for the lesson library. Also, over here on the left-hand side, we have links to the Ozobot challenges, the Shape Tracer 1, 2, and Ozotown, as well as, if you haven't tried it yet, the simulator. Please check that out. Give us some feedback about the simulator. A direct link to Ozoblockly, and then we also are beginning a Python beta. So if you want to join in on that, please go ahead and click there, and then you'll enter some information and get an email back that gives you more information about our Python beta. We're super excited about that. So first thing I wanted to talk about is our lesson library. We have updated the lesson library to have a video lessons filter. So if you only want to see video lessons, go ahead and click that. It'll update, all the video lessons will show up there. You can also filter obviously by subject or by grade. There are also more filters there if you'd like to filter by something else like bit or evo, or I'm not even sure what other filters are there, but these I think are the ones that people use most. So if you want to get really specific, go to that more filters button. From here, you can click open to check out the lesson. If you just want to get an overview of the lesson, click the open button. If you want to save it for later, you'll just click the little heart there, and then it will come over to your saved lessons. We'll talk about that in just a second. If you want to look at the lesson itself, you want to click on the title or on the picture. Awesome. Next slide. Oh,
if we can go back. Yes.
So if you want, we're going to go over how to share this with your students in a future slide in about 2 minutes. But if you want to, we've changed the way you share with students. And so that is probably the biggest change that we've made here. But I think you'll really, really like how easy this is. So if you want to click share with student, if you want to share with students, you actually need to click on the title or on the picture of Ozobot, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. We have pacing guides, which I think all of you will love. Currently, we have pacing guides available for grades 2 through 8. We are working on a pacing guide for kindergarten and first grade, and that should be out pretty soon. We've sent that to our creative team. They're formatting it, and it's just awaiting final approval, and then that will be available as well. So here's an example of what the 4th grade pacing guide looks like. You'll notice that it starts out with the introduction to color codes lessons, and all of these are clickable, and it will take you straight to the lesson in the lesson library. So we go through the color codes lessons. Then we have some content integrated lessons here. We have a STEAM lesson, an ELA, another ELA, a math, and another math. Then we get into the Ozobot Blockly basic training, as well as the other introduction to Ozobot Blockly lessons. And then we also have some content integrated Ozobot Blockly lessons that are coming soon. These lessons are finished. Again, they're in post-production, so we're just waiting for the final links to put those in. But if you're following this pacing guide and you're doing 1 lesson a week, you'll get to week 25 before you get to this Fact Families lesson. So we've plenty of time to get those finished and available for you. We're super excited for these pacing guides. We hope that they are really, really useful for you. If you have any suggestions, again, about the pacing guide, please let us know. You'll notice we have a little key down here. The lessons that are lined in gray or a really light teal, those are optional content integrated lessons. Let me go back to the slide before. The ones that have the pink line there are the highly recommended introductory lessons. So just a little bit about those, a description as well as the primary academic standard that's covered in all of those lessons for the pacing guides. Then the last page on the pacing guide is some links to other lessons that are specifically designated for fourth grade. Just also keep in mind that just because it says fourth grade doesn't mean it can't be used in third or fifth or sixth or seventh. So don't feel like you're limited by the grade level that we've assigned to these lessons. They're very easily modifiable for other grade levels too. And some of them have templates that are really easily modifiable as well.
That's a really good point, Jen. I just want to chime in and just say the way we
Yes.
determine the grade level is based on Common Core standards. So we did go to those grade levels and use the Common Core standards as our guidance for what was grade level appropriate content-wise. But we know going into this year, there's a lot of catching up to do. So as Jen said, a lot of these lessons will be applicable and won't necessarily be just contained to the specific grade that we assigned it to. Great point, Jen.
All right, so here's the moment everyone's been waiting for, assigning a lesson. So you will either have gone to the lessons tab here or into your saved lessons to a lesson that you've already saved. When you click on that in the saved lessons, or you click on the title of the lesson, it'll bring you to a screen that looks like this. Everything you need is here, including a link to the full video, the lesson plan, let's see, what else is there? The PDF for the student-facing instructions, as well as the solution, and any other printed materials you'll need are all there as well. So when you want to save this, or when you want to assign this to your students, you will come up here to this Share with Students button, that circled one right there. When you click on that, it will take you to this screen, which has a link that you can then copy and paste into an email, or paste into the LMS that you're using with your students that they are already familiar with. Just copy that link, paste it into their assignment, and send it off. And then when your students click on that, if you want to look at it yourself, students do not need to sign in here to click this button. They should be able to just click the link in the email or in the assignment that you send them. But this is what they will see. They will see this screen. There is no signing in. They don't need to use credentials from Google or from the LMS you're using. They don't have to do we're not collecting any personal student information at all for this. They log into your LMS, they click on the link that you've sent. This is where they go to complete the lesson. All of the materials they need are here at the bottom. They can click on the instructions tab that gives them step-by-step instructions on how to complete the assignment. They can also click on the completion checklist and give feedback, how they felt about the lesson. But the video is here. All the chapters for the video are here. So if they need to watch chapter 2 multiple times, they can just click on chapter 2 and there it is. And that's as easy as it is. No more downloading rosters, no more managing students within Ozobot Classroom. So we're hoping that this piece by itself will make your life 10 billion times easier. Are there any questions about that? Throw those in the chat and we will address those right away, and we can go back to these slides if you need to. Just remember, we'll be sending this slide deck to you as well, so you can go back through if you need to and review that as well. The next greatest thing about this update is the devices tab. So at this point in devices, you'll be familiar with this already. It looks very similar to how it did before. If you just have a single Evo, you can pair it the same way, just clicking by pair, and it will pair your single Evo. It'll bring up the little the pop-up, and you can click on the Evo that you've already named, if you've named them already, and click pair, and that will pair with Ozobot Classroom. If you need to use your communicator because you want to update 12 bots at a time or 18 bots at a time, depending on what you've got. Then you plug your communicator into a power source. When you click on pair now, it will prompt you to plug in your communicator. It'll also prompt you to plug in your EVOs. So they need to be plugged in. They don't need to be plugged into the charge base like this. They can actually be plugged in individually, but they do need to be plugged in. So if you follow those instructions there, you're good. When you are pairing your OCC, this is the only thing that will come up in the pair window. The OCC stands for Ozobot Classroom Communicator. So your EVOs won't all populate there. You'll click on OCC and click pair, and then your EVOs that you have plugged in will populate in the list right there in that devices tab of Ozobot Classroom. It will tell you some information about each one of those. It'll tell you the battery. It'll tell you if it needs an update. If it needs an update, you can either update it here at the top by updating all, or you can update individual bots. Something to keep in mind when you are updating, you need to stay on that page. If you navigate away from the page, the update may stop and then you'd have to start over. So my suggestion would be when you're updating your bots, do it at the end of the day. Make sure your screensaver isn't going to pop up. Make sure your computer's not going to turn itself off with its energy saver, and just let it run while you're cleaning your whiteboard or while you're cleaning up your classroom or something like that. It takes approximately 4 to 5 minutes per bot when it's updating. Then once they're finished updating, there will be a little check mark there. So this Gen 7 bot has been updated, and so it is on the current firmware version. So also, then if you wanted to rename your bots from this screen as well, you would click on the 3 dots on the right-hand side and you can rename your EVO. Another fantastic feature that's been added recently is when you either click on the name of the EVO or you click to rename it, once it's named or renamed, the bot will flash blue. So you know exactly which bot you have just updated with a new name or something like, or whatever you're doing with it. Once that flashes blue, you know that that's the bot that just got renamed, and you can put a new sticker or mark it with a Sharpie or however you are managing the names of your bots. Make sure you're naming your bots, because once the kids get them and they want to pair with, if they're using Ozobot Blockly and they want to connect to their bot to run it, if you've got 12 bots on in your classroom, those 12 bots are going to show up in the pair window. So you'll want the students to be able to see on their bot, I have Gen 7. I need to look for Gen 7 in my pair window. Click on that, click pair, they're good to go. All right, the last tab here in our new Ozobot Classroom is that help tab at the bottom. I highly suggest this device management video. If any of that updating, renaming, if you have questions about any of that stuff, that device management video walks you through it all again. So I suggest that's a fantastic resource, and you can find that in the help section over here under resources, device management guide. So that's the perfect place to find that. All of these other resources are fantastic as well. And I think we're on to Melissa.
Yes, so depending on what point in time you joined us for a professional development last year, we were either in the process of creating our video lessons or in the process of releasing more content integrated lessons. So as a quick refresher, all of those lessons that Jen had showed you in the lesson library with that video lesson filter are Ozobot created lessons developed by our internal team. And all of these lessons have a complete lesson plan, the instructional video that's student facing. They're about 45 minutes long, and they come with that student activity guide, the student activity sheets, and any answer keys or potential solutions that you might need to evaluate student work. All of these lessons are aligned to Common Core ISTE CSTA standards. So yes, each lesson is aligned with at least one CSTA, one ISTE, and then depending on the content, it's either Common Core Math, Common Core ELA, or NGSS. Not only are we including content, we've also noted, and as part of our development and our belief in equitable access and education for students, we've also really been intentional about including diverse students and including all types of different students in our content, so that no matter what a student's background is, no matter what their home culture is, they see themselves represented in what they're learning. And so we've done that. We've tried to incorporate that as much as possible in our content, because we know that the pipeline for STEM and STEAM jobs is not diverse, and we want to ensure that all students have access and opportunity to pursue that career and to study that content if they choose to do so. So that's something that we've really hit hard on, and we value 100% as an education team. Again, all of that content is there for you. You can print out those teacher instructions and student instructions if you'd like, but all of that content is covered in the instructional video. We've actually done a couple of user interviews with teachers that have used the video lessons, and they've been our certified educators, so they're well-versed in Ozobot. They're confident in implementing the instruction, and they've said, my lessons go so much smoother when I use the video to guide my instruction rather than trying to teach it myself. And while we know teachers are at various different levels when it comes to computer science instruction, we made those videos to be super intentional, to be a system of support, whether that's a student self-guiding and self-pacing through the lesson, or a teacher using it to guide their direct instruction in the classroom. So if any of you, it looks like, I know Kat mentioned that she's the technology teacher. If any of you are working with teachers that are interested in teaching computer science, or maybe a little bit nervous or hesitant because they haven't really mastered the concepts or the instruction, or even just how to use the bot, we highly recommend encouraging them to check out those videos, because they will absolutely help. We had one CE say that for the teachers that come into her lab, they have an innovation lab, and she's not always there because she's out supporting other classrooms. The teachers that come in that are hesitant know that Ozobot is the one thing that they can do because it has the video, and it will always go smoothly for them. So just something to note in case you are supporting teachers that may be more hesitant. We do have the introduction to color codes and the basic training for Get to Know Evo, where we go over the hardware components of the bot. We recommend that everybody start there so that students understand the different components that make up the bot before they dive into the computer science and the coding aspect of it. And then we have our Introduction to Color Codes basic training and Introduction to Ozobot Blockly basic training. If there are 3 lessons that you start out with, we highly, highly, highly recommend you start with these 3. If you have more time, we encourage you to use our introduction series. On the next slide, Jen is going to show us the introduction to color code slides. Introduction to color codes lessons, where we actually go through every single part of the color code chart, and we teach students what all of the different color codes do and mean, and they apply them in the skills checks. You can see in lesson 5 and lesson 9, they build up their skills, they learn about the different concepts, and then in lesson 5, they actually apply everything that they've learned before to solve a problem that we pose for them. And then in lesson 9, they combine all of their skills that they've learned in all the previous lessons to address a problem that we pose for them. So they're applying everything that they know. So really, really high quality content to introduce color codes to your students. We have a similar series for Ozobot, where we have utilized the CSTA standards to help guide students into introducing them to block-based coding. So you can see this is where we hit very intentionally on those computer science concepts and skills. In 2nd through 5th grade, they learn about, in basic training, they just learn about Ozobot, how to navigate it and build a very simple code. Then they go through and learn about sequences, loops, and debugging. And just like in the color codes lessons, in the skills check, they apply all of those concepts that they learned previously to solve a problem. And then then they move on to conditionals and variables. I believe variables is for 3rd grade and up, according to the CSTA standards. And then the skills check, they're different skills checks by grade levels, so they're developmentally appropriate. And they also have students apply their thinking and their coding skills to solve those problems. Middle school, we go a little bit more in depth. So they also go further in depth with variables, line following, and debugging. But the concept is the same in that they're building their skills and checking for their understanding as they're going through this series of lessons. And again, these are 8 to 9 lessons. Each one we recommend spending at least 45 minutes for your students to go through and to learn. So we have, again, like Jen said, if you do 1 lesson a week, this is 9 weeks of content to get you started. Yeah, so we also have, why don't we play a quick clip of the introduction lesson so you can get a refresher on what the videos look and feel like. So I'll mute myself while we play the introductory part of this video. Hi everyone, Miss Tui here. We are going to get to know your Ozobot today. For today's lesson, you will need an Ozobot Evo, a pencil, your Get to Know Evo worksheet, and optionally, if you'd like to color, markers, colored pencils, or crayons. In today's lesson, you will be introduced to Evo's various hardware components. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to identify and label Evo's hardware. Before we jump in, let's review some vocabulary. Today, we will be exploring Evo's hardware. What is hardware? Hardware can be defined as the physical parts of a computer or a robot. As we go through the different hardware components of the bot, follow along on your worksheet to label the different parts of Evo. So you can see in the video, we take care of all of the front loading for you, the objectives, the materials. Let's take a look at your worksheet so that you can follow.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I just interrupted myself. I don't know if I've ever done that before. But we were super intentional to take that heavy lifting off of you and any teachers that want to use this as a resource. We know last year was crazy. We don't really know what to expect for this year. I know most schools are starting off in person, but who knows if shutdowns are going to happen, knock on wood, hopefully they don't. But we created these materials for flexibility, whether you envision students at home going through these lessons, whether you plan on using these in class in front of your students, or even having them use independent work time to complete these lessons. We've made it completely flexible for any circumstance. So your students can still engage in computer science learning. But with this lesson, you can see that we have the introduction worksheet here where students actually have to go through and label all the different components. In the next lesson, this is the introduction to basic training for color codes. And what we've done is we've taken the basic training. If you've used basic training before, we've expanded on those materials to give a deeper in-depth series of lessons to fully onboard you and your students to color codes. In this lesson, it's the basics, how to calibrate your bot, how to draw lines so your bot will follow it, and then very basic color code skills as well. Let's see, I believe, in the next these are some examples of the activity sheets. We were super intentional about making sure things were condensed so that you wouldn't have to print a lot of pages. We know printing is very limited in schools, and so we wanted to make this as easy for you to implement as possible. In the basic training, again, they also we go over the symmetric and asymmetric color codes, and students have practice with that, and you have your sample solution for you to reference if needed. And the color codes chart, our color codes chart is on the next slide, which you can always use as a reference or give to your students to use as a reference as well. And our final introduction lesson is our basic training for Ozobot Blockly. Again, in this lesson, students go over the basics of Ozobot Blockly, and they learn how to navigate, and then they build a simple program and execute it. They connect their bot, they learn all of the basics so that they can be successful in all of the upcoming Blockly lessons. Great. Wow, we went through that super quickly. Many of you have attended professional development with us before. In the chat, I'm going to drop in a survey. We would love to know how things are going in your classroom. We're all former teachers, and so we are somewhat guessing as to what things are like during COVID right now for you. And we really want to make sure that the materials we're creating are working as best as possible for you, teachers you work with, and your students. So if you could take a moment to fill out that survey, we would highly, highly, highly appreciate it. And you can always reach out to us if you have any ideas or suggestions or just thoughts for improvement. If something's working really well in your classroom, we'd love to hear that. If there are certain things that you feel like might need to be tweaked to work better in your classroom, please let us know. We are always looking for that feedback so that we can make sure students are successful and you're successful. And I think with that, we have Q&A. So Heather, who's on our team, are we able to allow unmute people to let them chime in with any comments or questions that they'd like answered?
Let me check.
And if not, you can pop any questions in the chat or in Q&A. Let me see. Looks like I can allow people to talk here.
Oh yeah, somebody's unmuting.
Yes, feel free to unmute yourself if you have a specific question or if there's any feedback you'd like to share. Now's the time to let us know.
I'm really excited to use the videos for basic coloring with my students. I think it's going to be really exciting to see them just like dive right in and to be able to use them. Like because we have to do like some basic Chromebook stuff and navigation and how to use that. But I'd like them to be able to use it also as a station. So they'll be able to use it more frequently. And I think getting them used to the videos and the sequence of videos is going to be wonderful.
We're glad to hear that you anticipate that it'll be useful. So that was our goal. And we're just trying to make things easier for you. We know there's so much going on this year. We're hoping that all of these materials are beneficial. Any other thoughts or questions or comments? All right, well, if there aren't any more questions or comments, we do want to just wrap up by saying that if you have any questions or comments, you can always email support@ozobot.com or your account executive, who would be your main point of contact if you purchase through a school account or through your district. You can always opt in for updates at ozobot.com. And we have links to the lessons we referenced today here on this slide so that you can easily access them in the lesson library. We also have a recap on how to use the lessons on our blog if that's something you'd like to check out. But we hope everyone has a wonderful school year. We know last year was extremely tough. We're here with you. If there's anything we can do to help support you, please don't hesitate to reach out to let us know. You all are doing such a phenomenal job under such extreme circumstances, and we very much appreciate everything that you do for your families and your students. So everyone, we hope you have a wonderful back to school season. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you all soon.